full cycle, and what is involved with the full cycle of immunization for meningitis?
Right, as far as meningitis, that is a term that means inflammation around the outer layers of the brain. It can be caused by different things, bacteria, viruses, and very rarely fungus as well. When we talk about bacterial meningitis, there's two types that historically have caused the most disease. One of them is called strep pneumonia. The other is Neisseria meningitis, and I'll be happy to write down the spelling afterwards for you if you'd like. And we've had a good vaccine against streptococcus pneumonia for a long time, so we rarely see that anymore. We're actually seeing less of the Neisseria or meningococcal meningitis as well because of the vaccine. We still see too much of it. If I see one patient, it's too much about it. But this vaccine is certainly helping. And as far as the cycle for vaccinations, we want to really get kids 7th grade and high school, because your highest chances for developing meningococcal disease are within the first 6 months of life, and then you get another peak when you're late teens, junior, senior year of high school, and especially people who go into a college dorm for the first year, military recruits living in barracks. We know the chance for this bacteria to go spread to other people. Roughly 10% of the population has this bacteria in our nose and the normal part of our bacteria. Luckily, most of us don't get infected with it. We are not sure why some people develop disease and others do not, but good news is the vaccine seems to work pretty well for everybody.
And is it one shot?
It is one shot. And then there's also a meningococcal vaccine which can be used in younger children as well, which is one of the more recent vaccines that have been added to the schedule.
So
There's a
there's
booster.
two shots.
Yeah, there's two shots.
So
There's
one
two
shot,
shots.
but then at 7th, grade, and then the booster at 16th years of age.
I'm sorry, give me that again.
So 11 and 12-year-olds, and then 16-year-olds.
So the new law requires by the time you're entering the 7th grade, you receive that first one, and by the time you enter the 12th grade, you receive the second one.
And isn't it already mandatory that if you're going into college that you have to have this?
It actually
No.
depends on what state you live in. And then even universities within a state, it's up to the discretion of the individual university. I trained at University of Maryland, and we actually did require it there because we had had some pretty bad outbreaks, but it is not a universal recommendation or law. I should say it's a recommendation that they get the vaccine, but there's no requirement on the books.
So there's no requirement in Ohio.
Correct.
Should there be?
So if they get the immunizations at their 7th grade, and then, their booster at 16, they'll have been fully vaccinated.
But I would like to add that if you are a freshman going into college this year, if you have not had the meningococcal vaccine yet, it's highly recommended that you get it before your child goes into the dorms. It's very, very important for a college freshman to be vaccinated. So, the law is going in this school year, we'll have our 11-year-olds and our 16-year-olds protected, but before this year, if you did not know about the meningococcal vaccine and you have a child going into college, it's really, really important that they get the vaccine before they go.
But just to make sure I'm clear, that a student who is coming into college in Ohio, who is coming from another state that does not have this law, there's nothing requiring that they
So
do
we
it?
still have a law that requires that students that will be living in dormitories in Ohio, that they be notified about the vaccination. And that prior to, I think there's a declination form or a consent form that they need to sign, so they are aware of the recommendation that they be vaccinated. So that would cover right now, although there's not a requirement that they be immunized. A lot of universities have taken that on and do have a requirement, but there is, they need to be notified prior to getting into a dormitory situation in the school that there is this recommendation that they be vaccinated. It also covers hepatitis.
And so if you go to the National Meningitis Association, on their website, it shows by state the laws, it shows by state what the requirement is, it shows, whether you're required to have a letter, like she said, or whether it's an actual mandate. So if you get, this National Meningitis Association has it all listed by state, by requirement, by age group, and so it breaks it down for you, and they have a lot of information on there as well.
Are there expected to be any religious belief exemptions? Have they for this coming school year? And are they? So for the state of Ohio right now, we allow for 3 different types of exemptions. One is religious, one is national, one is
There's no formal process right now in Ohio where you formally apply for that. It's handled on a school district by school district basis in terms of how they attest to the fact that they're, opting out for vaccines for their child.
Do we have an estimate on how many are opting out?
We track that. So we have, it's less than 2% for both medical and the religious philosophical exemptions.
I would add that out of the 12 largest religions in the United States, none of them actually say don't get vaccines or there's a religious exemption for it. The only thing in Ohio, religion-wise, I think that might actually oppose vaccination is the Dutch Reformed Church, but everything else is, they don't recommend anything against vaccines. It's very permissive.
Can you tell us about hiring and promoting the need to get the vaccine?
So there's a couple of things. So in terms of the vaccine, I know that a lot of the health departments themselves have sent out a lot of information along with all the school districts. The chapter has actually been working hand in hand with the School Board Association to make sure that they're getting information out, and we've sort of done a really simple fact sheet for them to get it out to families. Most families were notified from what we're hearing back in the spring to give them plenty of time. Certainly our physicians were well equipped in, waiting for potential rush of people needing to get the vaccine, needing to catch up if they hadn't already gotten it at their 11 or 12-year-old visit. And then I know that health departments were also on making sure they had enough vaccine and educating people. So that sort of education has been going on, and then we've been doing a lot of events like this to kind of get the information out. A lot of our immunization partners have spread the information so that there's a lot of news coverage on it for families. And then in terms of the app itself, what we're doing is some social media around the app, targeting families in particular. Then we're doing an awareness campaign just with physicians and family physicians, basically anyone who vaccinates, about the availability. There's a nice little magnet that they can give to families to basically take a little screenshot and then go in and get the app themselves. And
Well, I think it's really important to note this is not a new vaccine. This is a vaccine that many, many children have been getting, that many states have been giving their children. This is a new bill that passed last year through Senator Hyde for the meningococcal vaccine in the state of Ohio, mandating it for their children. But this is a vaccine that's been around for a while. And this is a vaccine that many parents have already given their children. I mean, like I said, I had my kids even have it. They got it when they were younger, so when they were toddlers even. So this isn't a new vaccine by any stretch. And most doctors, physicians' office, family physicians, most people know of the vaccine and have had it. This is just like an effort to have a bill to really encourage people to protect their children. I mean, this is, I don't know, what important to me is that you guys realize it's not new.
Do we have data on how many have already had this?
The vaccine?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
in the millions. I don't know
Yeah,
off the top of my head, but this vaccine's been widely used even in Europe before it became widespread use in this country. It's been out a long time. Definitely enough people have been vaccinated that if there were any rare problems, we have enough people vaccinated, they should show up.
They've been giving this vaccine to the military since the 70s. And then over the last 10 years, I would say, is when it's really been pushed among adolescents and middle school kids. And mostly, it's kind of like one of meningococcal, since it's spread through respiratory secretions, it's when the kids start getting, which my kids will never get to this point, but when they start sitting closer together and they start liking each other and are surrounded by each other more, so you've got middle schoolers and high school and college kids. That's where the emphasis is because of the way that it's spread. But, I can't emphasize more that the vaccine has been around for years and years and years. Lots of states have given it to their children. I know that New York, the state of New York also passed a mandate recently, which is similar to ours. Georgia is one of the states. I mean, I could go on and on. There's a lot more states that require their children to get the meningococcal vaccine than there are that don't require it.
It's also been used by laboratory workers in hospitals who deal with bacteria because they are sometimes will have these specimens. Certainly the researchers who work with this type of bacteria have gotten the vaccine as well.